What is going on, everybody? Welcome in Fantasy Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, picking his ear, John and Pemba. What's up, dude?
What's going on, Howard?
Are you all set for basketball? Do you need any more time to look at your lineups?
It's too late. I play on FanDuel. There's no late swap on FanDuel tonight, so it is what it is. The money is invested.
Setting some money on fire today, John. What's going on, man? You seem so sad.
Today was just a lot of injury news in the basketball world, and you just really had to pay attention, and some tough decisions have to be made. So it is what it is, like I said. But now it's football. Let's talk football. We have a lot to do there.
Definitely fun. I like talking football. I've been talking football all day. Why the hell not? Let's keep it rolling here. Want to talk about the DFS watch list, but before we do that, give me your thoughts here on the Des Bryant signing. Signs with the New Orleans Saints on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think Cam Meredith is officially not viable anymore.
What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
I have to walk back my Cam Meredith love. He's still my boy. You can still call him my boy if you want. But it seems like it's unlikely he makes any further impacts on that roster. I think Des Bryant will be good to go, like startable in probably 2-3 weeks. I think this signing isn't like an immediate need for them, really. They're still winning football. They just beat the Rams without him, so they don't need Des Bryant. But I think come the playoffs, they're going to want to have him full up to speed. Give him a couple weeks, get used to the offense. Maybe he plays this week, but he sees like 10 snaps or something like that. Get him a toss or two. I'm not expecting anything big out of the gate, but it's an interesting signing. Anytime a guy goes in with Drew Brees, you have to at least pay attention and take notice.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm curious to see what they do with Traquan Smith, whether or not they decide they're going to line him up in the slot or whether they're actually going to stick with Cam. I know that Cam's not seeing any of the targets, but I mean, is that just
it's like goose eggs? So what's the point of having him on the field?
I don't really know. So does that concern you then for Traquan Smith if they start working him out of the slot? It's clear that Breeze isn't looking in that direction.
Maybe. I mean, Meredith isn't really I guess Traquan Smith probably isn't your prototypical slot receiver either. They're both big guys. Maybe like Dez fits better in the slot. Like, I don't know. He's more of a possession receiver these days, right? Than he is a downfield guy. So maybe you line him up in there, you get him go over the middle, and he can, make those tough grabs, and you let, Thomas and Smith play the sideline game. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see. The other news that we had in football, and this is obviously going to relate to DFS at some point or another here, but this Jets-Bills game, I was all in on the Jets defense here going up against the Bills. Who the heck knows what's going on there? Nate Peterman probably not going to start. They're still looking at Derek Anderson. They're still even trying to look at Josh Allen here to come back. So I'm all in on that, but then all of a sudden, then we get the breaking news here. Sam Darnold sitting around in a walking boot. Now, all of a sudden, does the Bills' defense become more viable to you here because of no Darnold, or does the Bills' defense become less viable because of no Darnold?
So, I mean, I like the Bills' defense for sure anyways. Like, I understand they got lit up last week. But, I mean, the Jets aren't an offense that really put a lot of points on the board for teams. But they're going to, start Josh McCown this week? McCown's not a terrible quarterback. He might even be better than Darnold at this stage of both of their careers. So it's interesting. I still think I would play both defenses. I think they're both still viable. But, I mean, if McCown goes out and sort of has his Ryan Fitzpatrick moment, it wouldn't stun me there either.
No, it wouldn't stun me there either as well. And somebody was asking in the chat room on Fantasy Alarm today as far as they were going to use Brock Osweiler, but suddenly they could pivot to Josh McCown. Here you go. Josh McCown or Brock Osweiler in his super flex league. So this is obviously your super flex spot here. This is not your number one QB. Brock Osweiler, Josh McCown, go.
I think I would go Josh McCown. I do.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
I think I would too. I don't like the matchup.
I bought
here.
into Brock Osweiler last week. Anytime I've bought into a Dolphins team this season, it's only happened twice. Hasn't worked out. I'm done with them. Miami's a terrible football team. So.
Miami is a terrible football team. I'll definitely give you that. No question about it. All right. Well, so here we go, guys. It's Wednesday night. It's week 10. I'm looking to make some updates into the watch list. I put out the preliminary one. You can find it over at fantasyalarm.com and check it out. One of the things that we've talked about is that I try to leave out some of the obvious plays. And the example I used today was Alvin Kamara against the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, I'm looking at Alvin Kamara in my DFS lineups against the Cincinnati Bengals. Do I need to put him in the watch list? No. Why? Because I don't need to watch him. I know what he does. He does great things. You want to use him. He's a cash lineup staple here. Now, there are a couple of Chargers I put in the watch list here, John. I threw Phillip Rivers in there. Melvin Gordon is in there. Again, they're both going to be pretty chalky. Melvin Gordon, is he the obvious play here? As far as using that, or does he deserve to just be watched because there's always Austin Eckler poaching work? And a tough matchup.
He's definitely worth being played, especially when the Chargers do go up 3 scores. They're just going to run the ball out probably with Gordon, and you'll get that value there. And odds are Gordon's going to factor in the scoring anyways. But yeah, this is going to be one of the chalkier games, I think, of the slate, which is good. I kind of like when you sort of know where people are going to go, given the matchups. And usually you can identify that each week. You see the Tampa Bay or Atlanta or something like that, and the matchups sort of fit. I think after what we saw Nick Mullins, whatever that is, go and throw 3 touchdowns last week against Oakland, that's fresh in everybody's mind. I think they're going to, see Chargers, see the big names and Rivers and Keenan Allen and Melvin Gordon and think, okay, let's go here. Raiders are terrible. So, I like them, but I think that creates opportunity to pivot away as well.
Well, it's definitely an opportunity to pivot away. It makes it a lot easier for your cash lineups. You can load up on the Chargers and feel confident about that. You get some of those chalk plays in. GPP, different story. It's kind of funny. I'm looking at the lines today, and you've got 7 games, John. 7 games are sitting with an over-under of 50 or more points. That's the most we've seen throughout this season right now. Now, overall scoring is up. But does this look like the type of a season where, does it look like a type of a week where the pay lines are just going to be insane because the scoring is going to be so crazy, or are we overestimating some of these matchups?
I'm kind of just glancing over them some now. The thing is, you have some really bad defenses in the NFL this year, so there's always even teams that are bad offenses and now sort of getting a boost. We have Cleveland versus Atlanta this week. Atlanta is one of the worst defensive teams in football. Cleveland last week looked okay against Kansas City. But is that game probably one of the ones that are over 50? I don't have the spreads in front of me, but I have to assume that's probably the case.
Yes, 51 right there.
The Saints and Bengals probably going to go over. Kansas City, Arizona could be a team. I'm going to go yes, high scoring slate. Just because the offenses, like you said, the top tier offenses are scoring a lot of points, and the other teams are so bad that even mediocre offenses are putting up points. So,
well, all right. So Pittsburgh, Carolina is one of those games, 51.5. But for the games that are going to be on the main slate that we're looking at right now, main slate has Atlanta at Cleveland, 51. New Orleans at Cincy at 54. Tampa, Washington at 51.5. You got Kansas City, Arizona at 50, and the Chargers at Oakland are 50.5. Now the question is, though, is that where are we looking for our GPP pivots here? Because you kind of have to figure the New Orleans Cincinnati game is going to be pretty heavily used by a lot of people. The question that I have, though, here, and let me ask you, because this game to me, it almost feels like it's one of those annoying trap games that I'm just not so sure, or it could be this explosive thing. You got Drew Brees out of the Dome, out of New Orleans, in Cincinnati. The weather's supposed to be cold. There's not supposed to be any precipitation, but I'm not going to trust the weather today on Wednesday. I'm going to wait until I see the weather reports on Saturday night and see what we're looking at there. But then you've got Andy Dalton, but he doesn't have A.J. Green. Tyler Boyd's going to see a lot of coverage swing over his way because of the way he's utilized, which means that you've got John Ross and Alex Erickson, maybe C.J. Uzama as being 3 interesting targets to look at here. Is that where you're looking at the possibility of a potential stack to use that nobody else is going to be on, where you're let me go with Dalton or let me go with Dalton, Mixon, and Erickson and do something kind of wacky like that.
I think you're going to see a lot of targets go Mixon's way in this game. He already is a good pass catcher. New Orleans, to their credit, last week held Todd Gurley in relative check. I didn't think, that was going to be something we saw. Only held him, to 68 yards rushing. Granted, it was only 13 carries and 5.2 yards per carry, but, he didn't have the big game I kind of thought he would have. But they did give him 6 catches on 7 targets, only for 11 yards, but he let him catch the football. I think Mixon's going to be very highly involved in this passing game this week. Gio Bernard is limiting in practice. If he comes back, he's another running back that can catch footballs out of the backfield. Maybe they'll do some weird 2-back sets there and consider them both receiving options. But I can see that game being a letdown in terms of scoring, like you said. I know Cincinnati's defense has been terrible, but like you said, if they're without their best receiver, we know that Saints have been good against the run. Maybe they let down their half of the point spread. And you still see the Saints go for 28 to 30, whatever points, but maybe the Bengals only check in with 14,
Right. Yeah. No, and it pushes it just under the mark there that they have. I mean, 54 is a pretty big total, especially when you do have some question marks. Tampa, Washington, it's 51.5 here. Now, I know that Tampa can sling the rock, but I mean, you're missing offensive linemen for Washington like crazy. And I mean, where's Alex
Allen in Washington too? So Come
on, Maurice Harris. Yeah. Everybody loves Maurice Harris.
Who?
Maurice Harris.
Yeah, I guess. John Doxson caught a touchdown pass the other day. It was actually a pretty good catch, touchdown catch by him too. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't believe that. Yeah, I actually put Alex Smith in my quarterback coach this week. But you have to because of the matchup facing Tampa. But like, he's just so plain. He just doesn't. He's going to throw you 1 touchdown, 30 yards, 300 yards. Won't throw an interception, so that's safe. Maybe he scrambles for 30 yards, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Capri Bibbs is like the dart to throw, because if Chris Thompson's still not back, yeah. I don't trust Adrian Peterson going through that line.
No, I'm interested to see if Reed is active, because obviously you get Vernon Davis value there on the slate. And obviously whenever he gets the opportunity to be involved, he produces. Actually had a little decent game last week as well. So, there's definitely viable options. We can crap on their team all we want, but against Tampa Bay, pretty much everybody's scoring. So, who will I to say?
Well, that's the thing, man. Is that the stack? Is that the contrarian stack that takes down the Millie Maker, where all of a sudden it's Jamison Crowder, Jordan Reed, and Alex Smith as your top 3?
Yeah, like I said to you on Monday, the Millie Maker winner had Fitzpatrick, Adam Humphries, and O.J. Howard, as like a core, last week. So, yeah, it's possible. I think it's possible.
Chargers at Oakland, that's at 50.5 here. Oakland, they suck, dude. There's no other way to put it, but that Oakland sucks. And when you're looking at a 50-point game here, do you see Oakland even being remotely able to put up this kind of total on the Chargers?
Probably not. Not unless Martavis Bryant goes and catches a long touchdown pass, which is...
Who's he?
Yeah, I don't know. The last time I played anybody on Oakland, it was like Jordy Nelson 2 weeks ago, and Brandon LaFell was catching touchdowns. So,
yeah, I love that too.
I don't know. The Oakland's terrible. And again, I applaud John Gruden for what he's doing in Oakland. This is so smart of him. Lose, trade players for first-round picks, and then walk into Las Vegas with a boatload of picks, young talent, rebuild the team, and you're the coach for the Las Vegas Raiders for the next decade with the team that you built. So that's how I look at it. I don't blame him for a second for what he's doing.
No, not at all. I'm with you. He's gonna walk into Las Vegas with a team that looks like what the Rams currently look like right now.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, when you bring a team like that into Las Vegas and that kind of money and that kind of action, that's gonna be insane. That's gonna be absolutely nuts. It's gonna be like Louisiana today.
Yeah. Big influx of DFS players on there. That's a year out? Is that what I read?
I believe it's a full year out, but still, it's happening. It's coming around.
Yep.
All right, last game here that I got to ask you about, and then we'll get to some specifics in the watch list and specifics who you think should be in the watch list here. Rams Seattle, 10-point spread in this game, which kind of makes me want to put the money on the Rams here. 51.5 point over under. Does Russell Wilson hang with the Rams offense? Can he do it with the tools that he's got?
Well, we did just see this game back in week 5 and he threw 3 touchdowns. It was only 198 yards passing in the game, but I think I'll have to go back and check, but that might have been like the start of Seattle sort of like planning to start running the football more, or at least maybe it was a week after. Like when we pointed this out a bunch of times now, once Seattle started running the football more aggressively, it's when it opened up the passing game for Wilson. You and I are both sort of Seattle fanboys this year for whatever reason. We're always just kind of high on Wilson, and we think that he can produce, and people are kind of overlooking him. So yeah, I'm not gonna say no. I still think there's potential for him to go into face the Rams and have a decent game. Obviously, Chris Carson's stat is something I want to pay attention to, but I mean, Mike Davis was pretty good last week, and he's more involved in the passing game, so maybe that even opens some things up for Wilson a little bit more.
Which surprised me about Davis being more active in the passing game. I definitely was surprised by that.
I did just get an update that Doug Baldwin didn't practice today. That's a little concerning.
Dude's been a waste, though. I mean, let's face it. The dude's had 7 targets in his last 2 games. It's not. I don't know if that's a product of him still not being at 100% because of the knee, or if he's just not getting the looks.
Like groin was the reason for not playing. But I mean, are we really trusting like Moore to continue his pace? I mean, he didn't really do anything last week. Only had the 2 catches, 7 yards, but he had 4 total touchdowns in 3 weeks prior. Brandon's always talking about how Tyler Lockett's, a lock for a touchdown a week. He's pretty much kept that in pace again last week. The receivers had a little bit of a down week against the Chargers, but I mean, he's cheap. They just cut Brandon Marshall, so he's out of the picture. So yeah, not having a healthy Baldwin on the field. Maybe I'll walk back my Russell Wilson take a little bit.
I don't necessarily know if you have to. Listen, David Moore, if I put him into the dartboard, he hits. It's happened already.
There you go.
It's magical like that. Absolutely magical. And Nick Vannett, baby. Come on.
Good this year. Mike Davis was on the dartboard last week, and he ended up still putting up some decent fantasy points.
There you go. Beautiful. All right, let's talk about some of the guys who are looking at the watch list here. I threw in Trubisky. I like his matchup against Detroit.
Yep.
Dalton, somebody I'm just kind of keeping tabs on here. Rivers is chalk. Smith, like you put him into the QB coach. And then we both like Russell Wilson. Who's not there that stands out the most to you, John?
You've kind of hit a lot of the guys that were in my my QB coach, but I did have Baker Mayfield in that coach today as well. I was intrigued by the way they used Duke Johnson. Now, we've been fooled before. We've seen Duke Johnson have big games, and we think, like light bulb moment for the Browns coaches. They figured out Duke Johnson's a really good football player when you give him the touches. And then he disappears again, and you're like just stuck with a 0 in your lineup. But Atlanta's like one of the worst teams in football. I don't have the exact number, but when it comes to the defending running backs out of the backfield or receiving backs, so this should be a spot where they can again take advantage of Duke Johnson's skill set. Hopefully, the new coaching staff there realizes the player and talent they have in him. Atlanta's allowing, I think, the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this season. You still have Jarvis Landry there. You still have David Njoku. I think, and they're at home, which you take Atlanta out of the dome. Maybe they're a little bit of a different defense as well. I think Baker Mayfield could be a play this week.
Another one, yeah, you definitely think you have to check the weather on that one. Right now, they say it's 32 degrees and got a little bit of sun in there, but it's still
no precipitation. That's football weather. So.
That's the key. The key for, like everybody, we talk about guys like Drew Brees playing outside the dome, Matty Ice playing outside the dome. If there's no precipitation, I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not talking about Green Bay temperatures where it's like 4 degrees, where it feels like negative 12, but you're talking 32 degrees. Matt Ryan played all his college ball in Boston. Come on.
Yeah.
Obviously, the guy knows how to play in some cold weather games. Yep. Precipitation, different story there. All right, before we get to the running backs, I want to just give a shout out to Fantasy Factor, our sponsor for today's live stream. Guys, Fantasy Factor, it's single entry DFS contests. That's really what it's all about. It's all single entry DFS contests. So you're not dealing with lineup generators that throwing out 150 lineups and going against you there. You guys want to sign up for a new account? Make your first deposit, and Fantasy Factor is going to give you the rest of our Playbook NFL season for free. So Fantasy Factor will also throw in the NBA Playbook Pro full season. That's a $400 value as well if you do it right now. So go to fantasyalarm.com/factorNFL and get yourself signed up. Again, fantasyalarm.com/factorNFL. All right, running backs here in the watch list. Again, some obvious ones here with Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt going up against Arizona. I mean, I don't think you can get any chalkier than that.
No, probably not. He's
Talk
doing
to me about
the air too, which is like crazy. The receiving touchdowns that Kareem Hunt's getting.
Yeah, listen, it's a weapon that should be utilized like this. Like, think of what Kareem Hunt's numbers could have looked like last year if Andy Reid had his head out of his ass and actually gave him the ball all that for those 6 games. I mean, it was incredible. Yep. Talk to me here. The one that I have on this list that I'm most curious about your thoughts, Aaron Jones. We've seen Miami. No, not talking Miami offense here. We've seen Miami's defense, and the way to pound and beat up Miami the most is to just run it up the gut. We watched the Bears not do it and lose, and then the 2 weeks afterwards, we watched teams do it, just run all over them and actually win. Kerryon Johnson had a 100-yard game against the Dolphins. I can't remember who did it the week before that, before they shut down my Jets.
Well, Drake had a big game against them, and then Johnson ran first.
Drake is with them.
Drake is with them. We're talking about Miami.
We are talking Miami.
Yeah, I don't want to talk Miami. Who did they play? That's a good question. Who did they play before Detroit? They played Chicago before Detroit. Tariq Cohen had a big game. Lamar Miller ran for 100 yards after.
That was what it was. Lamar Miller the week after.
I'm looking at the schedules in reverse, so it threw me off there. We both love Aaron Jones. We've both been begging for him to get carries.
Yeah.
The man is averaging 6 yards a carry on the season. Last week, he had 14 carries for 76 yards against the Patriots. Had a big fumble that ended up costing them the game. But he was the most explosive back on the team. They got rid of Ty Montgomery. He had 4 targets, so maybe he's going to be more involved in the passing game. $5,000 on DraftKings, if you're going to give him 15 carries, that could do it against Miami. He could break the 100 yards and get a long run there.
I like it. Listen, nobody wants this to happen more than me. I really don't think anybody wants this to happen as much as I do.
I think the guy below him is a little interesting, Jalen Richard. You talk about PPR leagues. He's involved. And Doug Martin, I just get another update blowing up my phone here. Martin was limited at practice today with a hip injury. If Doug Martin ends up being ruled out, not that Richard carries the football. Was it Dwayne Washington? Is that who is the other guy there that rushes the football? Okay, we're talking Raiders. I don't want to talk Raiders, but PPR leagues and DraftKings, DFS, Richard could be even on the field even more. So.
Nice. All right, let me hit a couple of questions here in the old Facebook chat. Thoughts on Golden Tate? Hutch Smith wants to know thoughts on Golden Tate this week if you're looking to stack Wentz and Ertz with a wide receiver.
I like that he's had time to really get a little bit acclimated with the new team. It wasn't just like he's traded and then he has to go play right away. So yeah, I think they traded him for a reason. He's going to get on the field. Jeffrey and Ertz are still going to be the number 1, number 2 receivers there. But I still think Tate, interesting. I always take wait and see approaches. I'm kind of a conservative DFS player when it comes to these scenarios and even seasonal leagues. If you're in seasonal leagues, you sort of have to play Tate unless you have really crazy depth. But in DFS, I'd probably wait a week on Tate, see how he fits into the offense, and then move forward there. You don't want to stick him in your lineups. Your core lineup. If you're playing the 20 max or max entering something, put him in your lineup, that's fine. But if you're building one core lineup or a cash game lineup, I can't use Tate at least this week.
I gotcha. All right, one question here. It's seasonal, actually. Michael Hunter wants to know, he's got an offer of Emmanuel Sanders straight up for Chris Thompson. Now, he knows Thompson's hurt, but he's also looking at, their playoff stretch. No, you're just saying no.
How do you trade for a guy that hasn't been able to get on the field? For a guy that's been the number 1 productive receiver in that offense.
Oh, so then he's saying, yes, make that deal. Get rid of Thompson.
Yes, I thought he was giving up.
No, he's being offered.
Oh, then yes.
Emmanuel Sanders for Thompson straight up.
Open arms, welcome Emmanuel Sanders to your roster, and let Chris Thompson be the other man's problem. I'm a Chris Thompson owner. I'm dealing with that currently, just like waiting for him to eventually come back. But, give him up. If I could trade him, I would. So the fact that you're getting a guy like Emmanuel Sanders for him, Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. All right. One more here. How much can we trust? Brian Cannon wants to know, how much do you trust Leonard Fournette this week?
I don't. I mean, again,
not at all.
No, wait and see. The last time they put him on the field, he said he was ready to go. He got hurt within like 10 carries. So, no. I mean, it's such a great matchup. I think it's a trap. Again, if we're talking seasonal leagues and you have to play Leonard Fournette because you've been playing, I don't know, TJ Yeldon or something like that, and I would rather play Fournette than Yeldon if there's like that split. But if you have another viable starter, go ahead. And again, in DFS, unless you're making a bunch of lineups, no reason Fournette should be in your primary lineup or your cash lineup. They didn't really give you a discount. He's like the 6th top price running back, 7th top price running back. So there's no real discount on Fournette. So again, wait and see.
Yeah, guys, also remember this is a DFS live stream. We're trying to just skew this towards the daily fantasy game here. Obviously, ask your questions if you've got them, but seasonal questions probably should go to the fantasyalarm.com chat room. That's right there on the homepage. But I'm not going to say no to Jared Corey, who wants to know if you pick 2 here, John, in a PPR format, Cooks, Boyd, Chubb.
I would take the 2 receivers in a PPR format.
There you go. Agreed completely. Now let's get back to the watch list here. Talking wide receivers, John. Who do we got here? Tyler Boyd's a guy. You're the Patriots guy. Now, I know it's kind of funny because what I've learned right now is that when it comes to your wagering and it comes to your fantasy play, you're actually a pessimist when it comes to your favorite team.
Yeah.
Like, you stress so much about the lousy defense. You worry about Tom Brady's age. You're very pessimistic. But I freaking love Josh Gordon this week.
We'll just say that. I thought Garoppolo was the future. I was ready to move on from Tom Brady. But, yes, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup for a couple of reasons. Now, one, I don't think they're going to run up the score because Bill Belichick really respects Mike Vrabel. So you have to take that into a little bit of account that if they get a lead sort of late in games, sometimes we see, Patriots and Belichick like go for the throat, prove a point, score a bunch of points. I don't think we're going to get that this week, especially if Sonny Michel is healthy. I think we're going to see them sort of run the ball, get a lead, make sure they win, but not go too overboard. But I do think that Josh Gordon is going to get his looks against Malcolm Butler, who has been terrible this season. And not that, Brady has any sort of animosity against Butler, but Bill has seemingly disliked Butler for whatever he did at the end of last year that cost the team a Super Bowl. Bill was willing to lose a Super Bowl than play Malcolm Butler out of spite, even when it seemed like they should have played him in the second half, third quarter, whatever. So I think there's going to be some design offense here against Malcolm Butler, and I think Josh Gordon's going to be the guy to take advantage of that.
Like a reverse sort of revenge game narrative here, where it's the team targeting against the cornerback.
Yeah.
And just say we're gonna screw you over as much as we possibly can. I love it.
Bill wants to be proven right in this scenario. Not that again, Butler's play has sort of already done that, but I think he's going to really drive home the point here and go up against Butler, and it probably embarrass him at least on a handful of plays.
Sure. All right, a couple of names I threw in here. Names that are going to be chalky. Tyler Boyd's going to be chalky. Michael Thomas is going to be chalky. I do think Jarvis Landry is going to end up being a little bit on the chalky side. But talk to me here about names that you're looking that you don't see on the watch list here, John. Like, obviously, there's a million wideouts out there. The one that stood out the most, you were like, I can't believe Bender didn't put him in yet.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Talk to me why.
Well, I mean, I think that there's just going to be sort of an effort to get him involved that we've seen over the past few weeks now. 8 of 12 catches against San Francisco, 102 yards and touchdown. Had 8 targets and touchdown the week before that. I think that the game plan is going to be get Larry Fitz the ball at all costs with this new sort of offensive coordinator that they have there in Leftwich. Kansas City, we know, can give up a lot of points. Their defense a little bit better in the end. They played a little bit better at home, but again, we just saw the Browns put up a decent amount of points against them. I'm not expecting Arizona to make this a competitive game, but I think that it can score a handful of touchdowns. You said the point spread's over 50. I think Fitzgerald is someone that should be looked at in GPP formats.
Yeah, I like him a lot as well. Definitely. Anybody else that stands out to you?
I mean, yeah, if we're going sort of down, I think John Ross, you've sort of mentioned Tyler Boyd. With no AJ Green, Ross is going to be someone that they're going to look towards. I think he's been practicing. He should be healthy. The Saints are allowing the most fantasy points to opposing receivers. We've been sort of waiting for Ross to sort of explode. Hasn't happened yet. So
that's why I'm kind of tilting towards Alex Erickson. Like, you want to know somebody who's guaranteed to show up in the dartboard? It's Alex Erickson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. I mean, I can't argue with it, but yeah, those guys are definitely dartboard plays. I think Humphries is another guy you can go back to the well with.
Okay.
I pointed out, he sort of goes through these stretches where he just sort of flies under the radar for a while, but like he's always been getting these like targets and yards, and fantasy players just don't take notice of him because he's not exciting. And then he has a game that pops, and everybody takes a real look at him. It's like, oh, we probably could have seen this coming if we just looked at Adam Humphries at all. I still think that there's potential for that there. For $3,900 on DraftKings, he didn't get a bump at all. So I still think Humphries is a guy you can look at.
Yeah, I tracked the targets there when I was doing the Stock Watch article.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I was like, okay, Adam Humphries averaging 4.6 targets per game for the first 5 or 6 games. Yeah. Last 3, he's averaged 9 targets a game. Chris Godwin really falling in on the outs there in Tampa Bay. So I like that Humphries call a lot. Let's wrap it up with some tight ends here. To me, I honestly feel like O.J. Howard needs to be a lock in almost every format here, because this guy he's a regular touchdown threat, no matter who the quarterback is, really.
Yeah, and they finally gave him a little price correction after he was so I think he was like 30-something% last week or the week before that, because they just were never boosting his price tag, but he finds the end zone. We thought this is what he was going to be when they drafted him, and then they went and gave Cameron Brate, that contract extension. You're kind of like, why did they do that when they just used this early round pick on Howard? We're seeing the upside Howard brings to the table. I definitely agree with you. He's someone that you need to pay attention to. I think another guy that you don't have on your list, but we should look at is Jack Doyle. Doyle came off injury and came and got 7 targets right away, 70 yards and a score. This is Andrew Luck's guy. I know they're facing Jacksonville, but
where do the Jags rank? I'm looking right now where they rank against the
they have allowed the fewest. But again, I distrust the rankings against tight ends more so than other teams, because not every team features a tight end in their offense. You've heard me say that a bunch of times. So I'm really going to have to take a look at the teams that Jacksonville's played that really use their tight end, and then see how they've done against them. But still, Doyle seems like a lock for 7, 8, 9 targets, especially if that pass rush is getting to Andrew Luck. Like, Doyle's going to be out in the flat half the time, where he's going to be, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, waiting for, a pass for Luck to dump it off to him. So I still think Doyle, $4,300. I don't think anyone's going to use him because they're going against a Jacksonville team. But yeah, I think Doyle's someone that should be looked at.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shout-out for Ben Watson, because not only has Ben Watson got 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games, Ben Watson has twins who are due this week.
Wow.
That is his 6th and they will be his 6th and 7th children. Wow. He's like happier than a pig in shit
Good
right
for
now.
Him.
And yeah, so worrying about whether or not somebody's gonna get enough sleep because their wife's having a baby or anything like that. This is routine for Ben Watson. He's super psyched about it. And Cincinnati gives up the 2nd most fantasy points per game to a tight end. He's not featured, but he has been getting the looks from Drew Brees steadily over the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, and I mentioned Vernon Davis too. If Jordan Reed doesn't play, Davis only $2,800 on DraftKings is a free square. In my opinion, that's less than some defenses. 5 catches and 7 targets last week against Atlanta. So again, Alex Smith looked at him. If he ends up starting, if Jordan Reed's out, that's almost like an automatic play.
Love it. I love it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. We don't want to take up too much of everybody else's time. Big thanks to Matt Sells, our illustrious producer for today. Wishing you guys nothing but the best of luck in all your DFS contests this week. John, before we go, make a pick right now. Tomorrow night's game, Carolina-Pittsburgh. You heard me and Mish talking about it on Tuesday night's game. He's on the Panthers. I'm on the Steelers. I'm laying 4 points. Where are you taking it?
I am going to go with Pittsburgh in this one.
I think it's money in the bank here. Pittsburgh, no doubt. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here at the Fantasy Alarm live stream. We will catch you guys next time.
See ya.